Okay, I felt led to go ahead and stop on the Roman series and begin as we prepare for Easter or Resurrection Sunday. And working on the service for Tuesday evening and then service for today, this week. So I titled this Jesus Last Night. And I'm not going to go into everything that happened on Jesus' last day on earth, but I am going to talk from Matthew 26, 36 to 46 about Jesus in this time, in his last night that he was on earth. And so let's look at the scripture to begin with. Begin with Matthew 26, verse 36. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, James and John, along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow, to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed a third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for your word. I pray that you fill me with your spirit as I deliver your word. May your truth penetrate our hearts, cut through the very marrow that's in us. Lord, we need to hear the truth. We need to be convicted by your word. Lord, thank you for sending your Son to save us. Thank you for his commitment and his willingness to go to the cross and then endure an excruciable death. Lord, nothing we do earn it. We don't deserve it. But you did it out of love for us. Thank you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Commitment. Jesus had commitment to follow through the reason he was put on earth. He was put here to die for us. But when it came time, it was difficult for him to go through it. But yet, he was committed to it, and he surrendered to what his Father's plan was for him, right? Jesus last night. He's in the garden at Gethsemane, okay? At the Mount of Olives. A garden where he's prayed many times. But this time's different. This time, he's experiencing immense sorrow, pain, to somehow be delivered from this situation. Yet he was still committed. How many know Theodore Roosevelt? Well, maybe not personally. In Taiwan, there'd just be maybe a few. Anyway, let me read this quote about commitment. "Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat." what's this great twilight that Theodore Roosevelt be talking about? I don't think he's talking about inspiration. I don't think he's talking about we're not motivated enough, we don't have enough desire. That great twilight, I think, is living in mediocrity.
Yes.
Living in mediocrity. Not knowing victory, not knowing defeat. You know, we all know about Thomas Edison, you know, his 10,000 failures before he invented a light bulb. Well, that took a tremendous amount of commitment. Janae was watching, I was just hearing part of it, I was trying to work on my sermon last night on Steve Jobs, right? Biography or whatever about him. You know, anybody like that who starts up a business like that, or, you know, a story about FedEx or others, there's a tremendous commitment. If there wasn't, there was no way they succeed, because it's not all a bed of roses. Along the way, they meet tremendous difficulties, struggles, defeats that they gotta work through, right? But they have commitment, and that's how they're able to do it, right? You know, men were having a breakfast yesterday morning at Denny's, right? And it was funny because we were sitting by the window, and outside there was a chicken and a pig. You didn't see it, though. There was a chicken and pig that they were right outside, and they saw that ham and eggs, $4.95, right? And so the chicken looks at the pig and he says, "That's our total contribution, right? Is breakfast now." And you know what the pig said? He said, "That may be your contribution, but that's my total commitment." Commitment. You know, what is it? What does it mean? You know, Jesus, when he went to Gethsemane that night, he surrendered to his Father's will. He knew why he was on earth. Didn't make it any easier. But he was committed to what? To saving us. And he went through with his commitment. He didn't let go of what he was called to do. It's a dirty word. In our culture, commitment's a dirty word. How do we know that?
Divorce.
Have you looked at young people, how many actually want to get married?
Yeah.
Why? A lack of commitment. They don't want to commit to a marriage. So let's just live together with no commitment. And then if at some point I don't like you, you don't like me, you know, we can just go our separate ways. No commitment. We have a culture that is raising our youth with no commitment. You know, they've seen their parents get divorced, and so they're like, well, I don't want to do that because I don't want to go through divorce or whatever. But they don't want to even enter into it. They don't want to even consider it because of the commitment. The commitment part. Yet we're called as God's people to be committed. Committed to the Father's will. That's what Jesus had to carry through. It was his Father's will. And to be committed, we have to what? We have to surrender. And like we were talking this morning, taking up our cross? Taking up our cross is giving up our will to follow God. Giving up our will for his will. And it's simple in a way, yet in application, very difficult. Right? Sometimes the simplest things are the most difficult things to carry out. To commit to Father's will and learn from Jesus. Jesus is the ultimate teacher. I mean, when he was his 3 short years of ministry with his disciples, what was he doing? The whole time he's teaching, right? Because he's got a short window and he's going to be gone. And they have to carry on the ministry, right? They have to carry it on after he's gone. And are we willing to commit? What are we willing to commit to? Are we willing to commit in a relationship, in a marriage? Are we willing to commit to the Lord? God as the Lord in our lives? What are we willing to commit to? Or are we willing to commit to anything? Or are we just going to continue on in mediocrity, without any successes, without any failures. You know, sometimes what do we learn more from, our successes or our failures? Yeah, don't we? Yet, sometimes we want to do everything that we can possibly do to avoid them, right? Prayer. Jesus, this time of prayer for him was just so intense. I can't even imagine how intense it might have been for him, right? He literally fell on his face, seeking God, asking for this cup to be taken from him. We'll talk more about the cup in a little bit. And then he submitted. Let your will be done, right? 3 times. 3 times he prayed. Right? Why? Why? He wanted to be assured that this was the way. I mean, have you ever prayed to God and you're still not quite sure? I mean, I've talked many times about, leaving Taiwan, but even come to Pueblo for us, okay? One prayer was not enough. We had to continue. We continued to seek God. Continued. Is this where you want us? Is this where we... Because this is not, we thought our plan was, we're going on to Tennessee. Okay? So is this really, God, where you want us? Now, I know as elders and deacons, you were praying for the same thing. You were praying, is this the right person for us? Or is it this, whatever. But I know you had to have a lot of prayer through the search. And we were praying too. Because for us, we wanted to make sure that this is where God was calling us. Both for us, but also for you. For you as well. So praying just once wasn't enough in this situation, especially when you make an important decision. We know Jesus constantly prayed. This is the way, of course, he spent time with the Father, but also our prayer time is the time that God reveals his will to us. It's only through relationship that we know how he is leading us. We know how he is prompting us, what he's saying to us, what he's telling us, what he's revealing to us, right?
Yep.
It's only by spending time. There is no substitute. There is no shortcut. And that's a problem that our culture has become, is we're looking for shortcuts. No commitment, but just how do I get there faster? It's the instant generation, or the instant, the microwave's taking too long. When I grew up, Chris, we know we had no microwaves as kids, but now it's days as the microwave takes too long, or whatever. Everything is instant gratification. Well, when you live in a culture that's instant gratification, where's commitment? Because oftentimes commitment takes perseverance. Commitment can take time, right? Like Thomas Edison, 10,000 failures, right? That, I don't know how many years that was over, but that had to have been over a long period of time, right? Persistent prayer. Don't pray and seek God's will and then not be willing to commit to it. Okay. If you're praying and seeking God on what he wants you to do, you need to have a teachable heart, you need to be available, and you need to be willing to obey what he's telling you to do. So I recommend don't enter into this kind of prayer seeking his will if you're not willing to submit to what his will is telling you. So first Jesus is praying for this cup to be passed, right? And then not as I will, but yours. Let's talk about this a little bit. Jesus is not afraid of dying. This is not what he's talking about. He does not have fear of death. When he's asking for this cup to be taken from him, he's not talking about merely dying. Okay, he's talking about something else. First of all, we got to think about the kind of death. Okay, this is part of it. The most excruciating death you can possibly imagine. Okay, we already know, that he's going to be tortured. He's going to be whipped. And anybody seen Passion of Christ, brings this very vividly to our minds what it might have been like. And he's put on the cross, nearly dead when he's put on the cross, but he is still alive. And then to hang on that cross, with nails driven through your hands and hold them up. Oh gosh, I can't even imagine how excruciating pain that must be that he experienced. But here is the real point. Separation from his Father. Why? What does sin do? Separates us from the Father. Well, does Jesus have any sin? No, but he's carrying all ours, right? Can you imagine the burden that could be? Carrying all the sin of past, of present, of future? What a burden that might be. Well, and being such a burden, separating him from his Father because of the sin that he has to carry. That's the cup. It's the separation from his Father that he is so sorrowful about, that he is in so much agony in his prayer about. We know God's plan from the beginning was for Jesus to die, which means Jesus, of course, knew that as well, right? Is it a terrible plan? How would you like to, from the moment you were born, you knew your plan was to die? Well, we all are going to die, right? So that's your plan, but 33 years old or whatever age approximately he was at. I don't know about you, but in my life, God's plan very seldom ever makes sense. And that's sometimes all I know, it's God's plan. Because I'm a planner. I've got my own plan that's logical.
Yeah.
But then, if I take the time to really submit to God and his plan, it's usually something totally different. It is something different. Does he bless us by following his plan? Absolutely. My plan was not to leave Taiwan. God's plan was for us to leave Taiwan. Have we been blessed by leaving Taiwan? Absolutely. I can't tell you how blessed I have been being in this body. Okay. I feel like I'm serving God more effectively than I did even in Taiwan. I feel I've had more relationships than I was in Taiwan. I just, I feel that this is family. And he has blessed us. Submission and trust, which requires what? Faith. Right? We're going to submit to God. We're going to trust in him. And many times it requires a stretching of our faith. But that's how we grow. Sometimes we say we want to grow in Christ. Yeah. And then he tests us with our faith. And we say, I don't think so. Not that area. Not now. Yeah, but what am I going to do from that? Or whatever. And so he tests us all the time. That's how we grow. Let's look at the scripture from Hebrews chapter 5, verses 7 to 10. It says, during the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Son though he was, he learned obedience for what he suffered, and once made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise Jesus is our eternal salvation for all who believe in him. Prayer we have to do. But then if God leads us to do something out of our prayer, then we have to act on it, right? We have to act on it. Why was Jesus so concerned? Look at that. Why was Jesus so concerned his disciples falling asleep? You ever thought about that scripture? Why is he so upset? But they're falling asleep. Well, they've been living together, living 24/7, literally together for what now, 3 years or so. I think they might be kind of close. We know Jesus was fully God, but he was also fully human. And I think he wanted the support of his brothers. I think he wanted the encouragement. He's going through a really difficult time. Just think of yourself. If you're going through a really difficult time, maybe some of us want to be by ourselves, but others, we want our friends around us. Right? I think that's what Jesus wanted. I think he wanted them to support him during this difficult time. Who knows the last time they slept, because they were like falling asleep immediately. He was only gone an hour at one time. They're already asleep. They've fallen into temptation, sleep, because they're tired. They couldn't stay awake. Judas had to betray. We're human, right? People are going to let us down. We are. And I'm sure in your own life, you could probably think of times when people have let you down. For me, when I was reflecting on this, the story that came to my mind was when we were looking to go to the mission field. And the missions pastor of our sending church felt like they shouldn't support us. Okay? Financially. And then our field coordinator, we didn't feel like we had support from him either. But yet we felt strongly we were doing what God was calling us to do. Now sometimes, if you feel God's calling you to do something and you seek counsel of a good friend that's a Christian, they may be telling you that's not the way God is leading you, or may confirm or deny what you're feeling. That can happen, okay? And you need to listen to what they're saying, because we're looking for confirmation if we're feeling led by God. So we felt, because it wasn't just Janae and I, but we had other close friends in prayer circles that had been praying for us, we felt strongly that God was calling us to go to Taiwan, despite our own sending church, saying, okay, go ahead and go, but we're not going to financially support you. And so we felt let down. I felt let down in that situation by people. But I also felt God had a plan for us, and God's plan was for us to go. So here's faith. Are we still willing to go? And we did. Because we felt it was God's plan. And we went ahead, and we went, and we were blessed. And other people and other churches stepped up and supported us. And so we were okay. And when we needed financial resources, God always provided. And so that, for us, was also confirmation that we were following God's plan, because he was providing for us. We had spent a lot of time in prayer. We had spent a lot of time. I felt called to mission field in 1999. We didn't go to 2006. Okay? And so we spent many years in prayer and seeking God on this before we had time to leave. So Jesus is at Gethsemane. He's pouring out his heart to his Father. The work's not done there. Okay? He still has to go to the cross. Still has to go to the cross. 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Now, of course, he called it out in Hebrew, but why have you forsaken me? Why am I separated from you? And because it was because of the sin that he had to carry to the cross. That he was separated from God at this time. Get busy for God. Prayer is wonderful, but if God is telling you something in prayer to do something, then it's time to take action. 2 weeks from today, next week we'll do Easter, 2 weeks we'll do a gift assessment. I'll do a teaching about spiritual gifts, and we're going to do an assessment and help you learn what spiritual gifts you may have. So hopefully all of you can come, and maybe more people can come, because this is important to know what our gifting is, and so that we serve, especially in those areas where we are gifted. It gives us an ability to start something, to take action, to move in the direction that God is planning for us. In Isaiah 53, verse 12, it says, "Therefore I will give him a portion among the great. He will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors."
Thank you, Jesus.
Now, that'd been easy to say after Jesus was crucified on the cross, but of course this is in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah, before Jesus ever appeared on earth. Who were the transgressors?
Me.
Another word, sinners. We are all the transgressors. We are all sinners. Jesus went to the cross for all of us. He interceded for us because we could not do it on our own. We needed somebody else to bear our sin and intercede for us. And Jesus was the one.
Thank you, God.
Jesus is the one. You know, there's a little commit and there's big commit. And probably most of us fall somewhere in the middle, in between. And what does it mean to really commit yourself to God? To dedicate your life to serving Him. To be witnesses. In this morning's Bible study we talked about what does it mean to be witnesses. You know, if you don't think anybody is watching you as a Christian, you are believing a lie. And you're probably being watched at the times you don't think you're being watched. You can do 100 good things, you do one bad thing. An atheist or somebody that doesn't believe in the Lord is saying, there's that Christian again. You know, cheating on their taxes, stealing from the company, lying about this or that. We are witnesses 24/7. And we have to act that way. We have to behave that way. That's part of our commitment in serving Him.
Amen.
We know God's watching us all the time. If you don't, hopefully you do now. People are watching us. The same people we need to be winning over. The seed, waiting for you to trip up. Are you really who you say you are, or do you just speak and then act differently? Actions speak louder than words.
That's right.
Right? You cut the light. Got a little video I'd like to show you.
It was a different kind of Passover, to say the least. I remember right when we sat down, Philip leaned over to me and he whispers, "Hey, Thomas, I feel like something special is going to happen tonight." I looked at him. I said, "I doubt it." I was wrong. Jesus got up from the table. He walked over and grabbed a basin of water and a towel. I remember at the time thinking to myself, what's Jesus doing with the foot water? You know, I doubt he's going to wash somebody's feet. I was wrong. He knelt down and began to wash Bartholomew's feet. The boy just sat there. He didn't say anything. He didn't move. None of us did. Jesus finished and went on to James and Andrew and the rest of us. I remember at the time thinking, This is so strange, yet wonderful. And then I thought, I doubt anybody's going to say anything right now. I was wrong. You know who broke the silence? Peter.
No way you're going to wash our feet. I mean, that's what I told him. He could wash other people's feet, but he wasn't going to wash mine. I looked at him and I said, Jesus, you're not going to wash our feet. I mean, you're the king. And he looked at me and he said, well, then you can have nothing to do with me. And I'm like, ouch. Okay, wash my feet, wash my hands, wash my whole body if you have to. He looked at me and said, no, your feet will be fine, Peter. In the midst of him washing our feet, he teaches us servanthood.
Then Jesus took some bread and some wine, he blessed it, and he served it to us. He said it was a new covenant with his blood. And he said, tonight, all of you will lose faith in me. I remember thinking right then, lose faith in you? Never. But I didn't say anything. I just sat there.
I couldn't just sit there. I had to say something, so I looked at him and I said, Jesus, I love you. You can count on me. Everybody else may fall away, but I will not. You can count on me. He looked at me and he smiled. He said, Peter, you'll deny me 3 times for tomorrow morning. Ouch. The next thing I knew, we were wrapping things up and we were headed to the garden to pray.
Once we got to the garden, it just got crazy. Jesus asked Peter, James, and myself to go further in the garden with him and pray, and we did. We tried. We kept falling asleep. Jesus kept waking us up. I remember one time he said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That's true. It's all a blur. I think this whole mess got started because of Judas. Did he really think what he was doing was right?
There he is. He's the one you want. One praying by himself. Now the others, they will come up and try to create some scene. But the one that I kiss on the cheek, that's the one you want. Now 30 pieces of silver, right? That's what we agreed upon? 30 pieces. Forget about the rest. The one that I kiss on the cheek, that's the one you want.
A kiss? Judas betrays Jesus with the kiss of a friend? Then it got crazy. Peter grabs a sword and he cuts off this guy's ear. And Jesus reached down and picked it up and put it right back on the guy's head, as if nothing had happened. And then they took him. I'd love to tell you that we fought for him, but we didn't. Everyone ran. I ran. I'm so ashamed.
What have I done? What have I done? Was I so stupid to think that I've killed him? I've killed him. I've crucified Jesus.
I crucified Jesus. It's what the crowd wanted, and that's what they got. And personally, I don't feel like that man did anything to deserve that, but I was just a soldier doing my job. When the governor gave his sentence, that's when I would go to work. I loved that job. I felt like I was administering justice every time I nailed someone to a tree. That man didn't deserve that. Didn't make sense to me.
It makes no sense. There I was, rotting in a jail cell, stealing, murdering. You name it, I've done it. And I knew the next time I stepped foot outside that jail cell, well, And that was it. So the guards, they came and got me, and they put me beside this guy that was beaten to a pulp. Then Governor Pilate started asking the crowd, which one of these men do you want me to set free? I mean, it was obvious. In the crowd, they're going to say, let Jesus go. And then I was going to tell them where they could go. And then the crowd, they started chanting, Barabbas. I mean, they were saying my name. They were saying my name over and over and over again. The guards, they threw me to the crowd, and they took Jesus to Golgotha. I mean, one minute I am a man marked for death, and then the next I'm free. It made no sense. So I followed him all the way to Golgotha.
I was stationed at Golgotha that day. We just raised the second criminal when they brought him to me. I'll never forget the way he looked. He'd been beaten, spit on, whipped. He was unrecognizable as a man. Hideous. What was left of his clothes were stripped off of him, and he was thrown down on the cross. That's when I went to work. Generally, when you crucify a man, the first hand's the most difficult. The criminal wants to get away and fight you. So I would have 2 soldiers hold him down, but this guy, he didn't put up a fight. I just thought he was exhausted. As an executioner, I've been called every name in the book. I've had men yell at me, plead with me. But I wasn't prepared for that. He looked at us. He looked at me. And he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He forgave me.
Forgive them. He said, forgive them. Who is he forgive? It should have been me up there. I was the one that was supposed to be hanging on that cross. He took my place. Then I looked up, and I remember he took a deep, agonizing breath, and he said, it is finished. And then he died.
Surely, this man was the Son of God.
What'd you think when Barabbas says that he took my place on the cross?
That was me. Me. Right, tears in my eyes.
So I'll stand and sing as
These are the days.